What's up, everybody? This is Kin, and welcome to my next podcast in a series that I'm making to help you guys learn English faster and improve your IELTS spend score. And in today's podcast, we're gonna talk about whether we should spend money or just save money. So, which course of action do you think is the most sensible one? Well, of course, we're gonna talk about spending money first because it seems rather more fun, right? So basically, if you have money and spend on your hobbies, such as going shopping or taking holidays, of course, you can derive a lot of fun from those activities. And I think there's certainly some truth in the notion that if you spend money, you can enjoy life more. And well, by the way, for some people, it is just impossible for them to actually save money because their income is just actually very low, and what they can earn is just actually sufficient for them to just pay for their food, housing, transport, and other utility bills. And well, there's just surprisingly little remaining to save anyway. And it is true, like in Vietnam, which is a developing country, the majority of people just earn about $300 a month. Of course, the cost of living here is low, but working adults also need to take care of their parents or pay for their kids' education and stuff, and there's very little to save. So basically, the notion that says you should save money is not actually practical to these people. And spending money is also a good thing. It is a worthwhile action because spending money on products such as food and clothes and other services actually helps boost the economy and create employment. So it is true that if you spend money, you help your country grow and you help create jobs for other people. Having said all of that, I think we need to save money wherever possible because it benefits both our lives and our future generations. And the reason is very obvious. We need to think about the economic climate right now. It is very erratic. Not to mention the fact that the coronavirus is spreading and countries are responding by closing their borders and locking down their countries, and workers are actually staying at home. Not many people, not really no one is working now, but not many people are actually working now. So surely it is a tough time for everyone, especially for people who do not have a reserve of funds for crises and emergencies like this. And many people are actually depending on state subsidies to keep their lives going. And it is just very uncertain because without state subsidies, it is just like a death sentence for them because they just failed to actually save money before. So at the end of the day, I also think that people who do not have a habit of saving money are actually putting themselves at risk. Well, I think we should also remember that by saving money, we can also ensure the lives of our loved ones, because we never know whether our parents or our kids are gonna have a disease or have some illness that require a huge amount of money. So by saving money, we can actually avoid all the possible scenarios where we just feel helpless because we don't have the money. And by the way, if we have enough money, we can actually give it to our descendants or our loved ones, our family members. So it will actually help them increase their security and standard of living in the future, which is also something that we would wish for, our posterity. So of course, we should still spend some money to actually enjoy life and have unacceptable standard of living. But we should all make sure that there's a saving scheme in place. Like we should all make sure that we have like a reasonable reserve of funds for emergencies and stuff. So I think it is wiser to save money whenever possible, because this action actually benefits both like our lives and our future generations, and possibly our like society as a whole. Alright, cool. So let's move on to the next topic for today, which is about grandparents living with their children. Do you think that older members of your family should be living with your family? And what are the benefits of doing so? And do you think that they would be willing to do such a thing? Because many old people actually prefer living alone, even though life could be a little bit tougher, but they actually enjoy higher levels of independence, and they can still like preserve their self-esteem because they just don't need to depend on anyone. Well, there are good reasons for and against the idea of grandparents living with their children. So basically, those who support the idea of like grandparents living together with their extended families often say that, everyone actually enjoys like a higher level of emotional support, and lives are actually safer. I mean, like your personal security is gonna be increased because you don't need to worry much about the problems of accidents or robbery, especially for older people living alone. It is increasingly stressful when you think about whether there may be some people breaking in your house, and when you're cooking, whether your blood pressure like drops too low and then you just like passed out. Well, many of you may think, well, he's just like being paranoid, like you are kind of a hypochondriac person because you think about all the worst possible scenarios and stuff, and you're just afraid of dying and stuff. But I just think that we should think about all the possibilities. And when you're living alone, it is highly possible that someone may try to actually take advantage of the situation by robbing you or just stealing your things. And finally, I think living with your children is also like less costly, because it's often the case that they will cover all the food and utility bills. So your enjoyment of life may be higher, but we should also be like realistic here, because many younger families these days just don't have the housing space or the time needed to take care of their parents or older members. So basically, it is just a very difficult task for them, and older people may feel like they are being a burden to their family members. And even though living with their family members is kind of easier, they would just try to like abandon the idea and try to live all by themselves, because hardly ever does anyone actually want to be a burden to anyone. So basically, even if their like younger family members may feel like responsible for taking care of their older members, they would actually struggle to convince these older people to actually live with them, right? And one last thing is that many grandparents actually enjoy like taking care of their grandchildren, and their visits are actually very cherished and special. But if you just have to take care of your grandchildren like every day, well, it is just kind of a burden to you. You are old and you should enjoy life. And like taking care of your kids can be actually very stressful, but it is just expected of them to provide childcare when they stay with their family members. So I think it's best for like grandparents to live independently, because they can actually enjoy higher levels of self-reliance, and they have separate space and enjoy life more. They don't need to depend on anyone. Okay, so maybe that's it for my podcast today, and hopefully again you guys can learn a thing or two out of it, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.